It all started so innocently. Life was comfortable. I had Mark, a husband who was steady, kind, and predictable. Our days fell into a rhythm, a gentle hum of routine that was both reassuring and, if I'm being honest, a little numbing. We had a nice home, a shared history, and a future that looked like a straight, well-paved road. I thought that was enough. I thought that was everything. Then came the annual company dinner. It was the same event every year, a blur of polite smiles, small talk about quarterly reports, and Mark, ever the dutiful employee, circulating among his colleagues. I was playing my part, the supportive wife, laughing at jokes I didn't find funny and feigning interest in conversations about market trends. I was standing by the dessert table, debating a second slice of cheesecake, when I first noticed him. He was one of the newer guys in Mark's department. I'd heard his name mentioned a few times, usually in passing. Liam's a real go-getter, Mark would say, or Liam nailed that presentation today. In my mind, he was just a faceless name, another cog in the corporate machine my husband was a part of. But seeing him in person was different. He wasn't just handsome. He radiated a kind of energy, a vibrant, restless spark that seemed to fill the stuffy ballroom. Our eyes met across the room. It wasn't a long glance, just a flicker, a split second in time. But in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't just a polite acknowledgement. It was a look of genuine curiosity, of appraisal, of something more. A jolt, like a low-voltage current, ran through me. It was startling and completely unexpected. I quickly looked away, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. I told myself it was nothing, just a trick of the dim lighting, the champagne I'd had. Later that evening, Mark brought him over for a formal introduction. "Honey, this is Liam, the guy I was telling you about." "Liam, this is my wife, Sarah." Liam smiled, and it was even more disarming up close. "It's so great to finally meet you, Sarah. Mark talks about you all the time." His voice was warm, and his gaze was direct, holding mine just a fraction of a second too long. We shook hands, and that brief touch felt like another spark, sending a warmth spreading up my arm. We chatted for a few minutes, the three of us. The conversation was standard, polite. "Where are you from? How do you like the city?" But beneath the surface-level pleasantries, I felt a magnetic pull. Every time he laughed, every time he looked at me, it felt like he was seeing me, really seeing me, in a way I hadn't been seen in years. Not as Mark's wife, or as a fixture in a comfortable life, but as a woman. It was intoxicating and terrifying. When he walked away to mingle with others, I felt a strange sense of loss. The rest of the evening passed in a haze. I went through the motions, smiling and talking, but my mind kept replaying that initial look, the feeling of his hand in mine. Driving home, Mark was oblivious, happily recounting office gossip. "Liam's a great guy, isn't he?" he said. I just nodded, my throat tight. "Yes," I whispered. "He seems very nice." That night, lying in bed next to my sleeping husband, I felt a profound sense of guilt and confusion. Who was this person who had been so easily unsettled by a simple glance from a stranger? I loved Mark. I did. But Liam had awakened a part of me I thought had long gone dormant, a longing for excitement, for the thrill of the unknown. I told myself it would pass, that it was a silly crush, a momentary lapse. I was wrong. It became a dangerous game of stolen moments. It started with emails. Liam would be included on a group message from Mark, and he'd reply, adding a small, personal note at the end just for me. "Hope you're having a great week, Sarah." Innocent enough, but it was a secret, a tiny thread connecting just the two of us. My heart would leap every time I saw his name in my inbox. Then, the emails became more frequent, more personal. We talked about books, music, dreams we had when we were younger. He told me he was a painter in his spare time. I confessed I'd always wanted to travel to Italy. We were building a world of our own, separate from our real lives. I was living a double life, one foot in my stable marriage, the other stepping into this thrilling, clandestine friendship. The guilt was a constant companion, a dull ache in my chest, but the excitement was a powerful drug. The first time we met alone, it felt both inevitable and utterly reckless. Mark was on a 2-day business trip. Liam sent me a text. I know a great little coffee shop downtown. Feel like being spontaneous? Every alarm bell in my head was screaming, but I couldn't resist. I typed back, when and where. Seeing him outside the context of Mark or the office was electrifying. He was just Liam, and I was just Sarah. We sat for hours, the coffee growing cold in our cups. We talked so easily, laughing and sharing stories like old friends. He looked at me with an intensity that made me feel like the only person in the world. He told me I was beautiful, that I had a light in my eyes he found captivating. No one had said that to me in years. It felt like drinking water after crossing a desert. I knew I was on a dangerous path. Every time my phone buzzed with a message from him, my stomach would flip. I started guarding my phone, deleting our conversations, creating a web of small lies to cover my tracks. Who was that? Mark would ask innocently. Oh, just a friend. I reply, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. The deception was exhausting, eating away at my conscience. The day it all changed, the point of no return, was a rainy Tuesday. Mark was working late. Liam texted me, I need to see you. The urgency in his message was palpable. He said he was at a small park near our house. My mind was a war zone. Part of me screamed to stay home, to end this before it went any further. But another, more powerful part was already grabbing my keys. I found him standing under a large oak tree, the rain plastering his hair to his forehead. The moment I stepped out of my car, he closed the distance between us. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me, his eyes filled with a raw, desperate emotion that mirrored my own. And then he cupped my face in his hands and kissed me. In that one kiss, all the stolen glances, the secret emails, the longing and the guilt crashed together. It was everything I had been secretly craving and everything I had been terrified of. It was a betrayal of my vows, of the man I had promised to love and cherish. But in that moment, under the falling rain, it felt like the most honest thing I had done in years. We pulled apart, both breathless. The reality of what we had just done settled in. Sarah, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I can't stop thinking about you. I couldn't speak. I knew, with a sickening certainty, that everything had changed. The straight, well-paved road of my life had just veered off a cliff. The affair began in earnest after that. It was a whirlwind of secret meetings in quiet cafes, late-night phone calls when Mark was asleep, and a constant, gnawing fear of being discovered. The thrill was undeniable, but it was matched by an ever-deepening shame. I was becoming a person I didn't recognize, a liar, a cheat. I would look at Mark, my kind, trusting husband, and feel a wave of self-loathing so intense it made me sick. He would tell me he loved me, and each word was a dagger in my heart. The lies became more elaborate. I was meeting friends, taking a class, working late. The life I was building with Liam felt vibrant and alive, but it was a house of cards built on a foundation of deceit. And I knew, deep down, that it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. I was torn between two worlds, belonging to neither, and slowly losing myself in the process. That first look at the company dinner had promised excitement, but it had delivered a heartache and a web of lies I was now trapped in, with no clear way out. I had chosen the thrill, and now I had to live with the consequences.